All right, kids, let's talk Afterlife. If there was going to be one thing to get me to the theaters, here we are. This is it. I was very cautiously optimistic about this movie. The more I thought about it and the more I saw that final trailer, the more the more heavily I leaned on the cautious part than the optimistic part. We are going to do spoiler-free and spoiler in the same video. That's right. So we're going to start with the spoiler-free with no spoilers, and then I will tell you when to cut it off. You will see the time marker on the screen. Spoiler-free. The story is, as you really know, the Spangler grandkids come to his farm in Oklahoma. The state's in Oklahoma. Excuse me. That's a little bit of a spoiler. State's no, because they really don't say anything in the trailer about where it is, but they go to Egon's farm to get together his things and I guess to live for the summer. You see that in the trailer, and spooky stuff happens. And kids start ghost busting. And Paul Rudd is also there. Let's start off with a little bit of positive. The special effects were good. The visual effects were actually really good. The visual effects were fairly positive with the visual effects. I thought that overall the acting was good as well. For the material that they got. The little girl was good in the role. She reminded me, especially the more she went along, she reminded me of if the robot from Small Wonder got a boycott. That's what she reminded me of. Is Vicky from Small Wonder. Ask your parents, kids. But the acting was relatively good. The visual effects were great. I think that's all I can really say as far as good is concerned without giving away too much of the movie. All right, let's talk about the bad. So there's a character, one of the little girl's friends, I guess the little podcast, one of the kids that are going to be going around ghost busting. This poor kid, and I don't fault the kid actor, because the kid actor was kid acting very well, actually. I can't fault him. For the material that he got, he was acting very well. He got terrible material, though. He got awful material. And again, not his fault. He was doing well in that role. It's just that role was incredibly annoying. I did not like this kid. He was incredibly annoying. And I know he was supposed to kind of be like the comic relief section of the movie. But here's the thing. Ghostbusters didn't necessarily have they did. The original Ghostbusters. And you have to compare it to the original Ghostbusters because that's what it's begging you to do. It did have a comic relief. It was Rick Moranis in this sea of other comedians. But Rick Moranis wasn't annoying. You liked Rick Moranis, and I didn't like this kid. I didn't like Podcast, the kid, the character. Again, the actor's doing fine for what he was given. The kid, the character sucked. The character just sucked. Paul Rudd's character was Paul Rudd doing Paul Rudd things. He actually fit. Like, I could see Paul Rudd, like, he was the most original Ghostbusters thing about this movie, was Paul Rudd and his sensibilities and how he played into the world that they built. He was the most Ghostbustery thing, original Ghostbustery thing about it. So, like, if you were to do a reboot or a recast or another sequel, because remember there were all these talks back in the day in the 90s. I remember Ben Stiller's name kept getting thrown around for some reason. But Paul Rudd, he actually fit. Paul Rudd was like one of the few puzzle pieces that you could take from this, put it in that, and it is Ghost. That's He's it. And one of the biggest reasons why I was cautiously optimistic about this was because it just felt like it was just Stranger Things with proton packs. And I know the Stranger Thing kids, they like Ghostbusters. It's not the same thing. It's not the same. It's just not the same thing. Like you can like ice cream and steak at the same time. You don't need to like ice. I don't need a steak flavored ice cream, though. You know what I'm saying? Like both of those things are great on their own, in their own lane. They don't need necessarily to mix together, and that's why I was cautiously optimistic about this. I think it mixed, and here's one of the real big reasons why I wanted to do this review for you guys, is because I wanted to give you an honest review. I did not believe many of the reviews that I saw for this movie, really at all. They either came off as if they were pandering, like Sony paid them off, and let's not forget they're not above that. They're not above that. They're not above sneaky shit to try to get some money in their coffers. A lot of the stuff did work, though. A lot of the stuff did actually work. The melding of the two worlds weren't completely out of sync with each other. They weren't completely outrageous with each other. It felt like Ghostbusters Afterlife was a really good fanfic of the Ghostbusters world. It's still fanfic, but it was a good fanfic. It was a good fan fiction sequel to Ghostbusters. It was very reverent. That is one of the things I did see in some of the reviews. It was too reverent, and you're right. The reviews that said that were 100% correct, because there were a couple of times where I rolled my eyes at the references that they slammed home. Gee, does this guy behind me not know how to drive? That they slammed home. I mean, hammered into you about Ghostbusters. Like, hey, it's Stay Puffed. Like, okay, yeah, here's a Twinkie. I got it. Okay, yeah, I got it. It's okay. I know what I came to see. Okay, like, here's the thing. You don't need to hammer home all the nostalgia and all the references to make your thing good. You understand? You just have to respect the original thing. You understand? And this one was a little bit too respectful, but a little bit too far. It was just a little bit too far. Like, we're gonna talk about Feek Busters here for a little bit. Here's the thing with Feek Busters. Feek Busters completely disrespected the original all the way through. If you look at the Sony emails, Amy Pascal, the head of Sony at the time, and Paul Feig clearly not only didn't give a fuck about the original Ghostbusters, but seemed like they actually hated Ghostbusters. Seemed like they actively did not like the original fucking Ghostbusters. Seemed like they actively fucking hated the original Ghostbusters, at least didn't respect it. Oh, that little Ghostbustery thing. Like, they didn't respect what the fuck they had originally, and that was the problem. That was the main crux and whole thing of the Feeg Busters that tricked it off from start to finish, from inception to fucking delivery. It tricked the whole thing off because they didn't respect what they had. This one swung it back the other way, a little bit too far, too much respect for it. We didn't need necessarily all that respect. Now, here's the thing. They got disrespectful in it too, and we'll get to that when we get to the spoiler section. They got disrespectful. There were a couple of times I wanted to fucking Elvis the goddamn screen. I wanted to fucking throw a fit at how disrespectful they got at a couple of different points, but we'll get there. In terms of non-spoiler thing, the editing on when we got to the big ghost boss at the end, the editing got rushed and choppy when we got to the end, when we first saw the big ghost boss. Very rushed. I was like, they're rushing through this part. Like, I need to see. So we didn't actually really get a good, like, entrance for the big ghost boss until the end. But when we first saw the big ghost boss, that should have been a bigger, grander moment, and they rushed the fuck through that shit, and that irked me a little bit. It's like, you take the extra 30 seconds to build this thing up. You understand what I'm saying? Because they built the rest of the world fairly well, but then we get to the big thing. Like, remember the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man? They took the time to build this Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in the original movie. You saw shadows, you saw the light, and it goes through the city, and it's looking this way. It's the you see shots of it, and you get a build of it, and then Ray's like, "This is Stay Puft Marshmallow Man," and we see it, and then you know, a couple of special effects there were rushed too, but the effects were rushed. The whole entrance wasn't rushed. The whole entrance for the big ghost here was rushed, and that irked me just a hair. So I think it's about time we get to the spoiler section here. So click to the timestamp that you see wherever you see the timestamp. It'll probably be over there. Click to the timestamp that you see whenever you see the timestamp, as we're gonna go into spoiler territory. I'm gonna take my sip of water because there's not much in here. I'm taking my sip of water because I am driving. Before we dip into spoiler territory, we're getting there. Okay, can we not with the fuck yous to Egon? For fuck's sake, okay, listen. So the movie's gonna come back and be referential to him and tip their hat, and you know, we miss you, Egon, we miss you, Harold, at the end. But goddamn, do they shit on fucking Egon through a significant portion of this movie? Everybody, and it doesn't make sense. Okay, so the family is the, I don't even really remember their fucking names. Phoebe's the girl, and then you have the Stranger Things kid, and I don't even remember the fucking mom's name. Mom, we'll call her Mom. So you have Mom, you have Finn Wolfhard, and you have Phoebe is the character's name. I don't know her real name. And then Stranger Things meets a girl at the local diner, the local sock hop skating diner place. That's the black chick, and that's the black one of the group, and he falls in love with her, and so they're doing their little back and forth. He's shy, and she's just teasing the fuck out of him, because that's what teenage girls do to teenage boys that like them. Especially if they get the upper hand and they like a lot. Anyway, boy, do I remember those days, and fucking Jesus, I hated those days. Anyway, but she's cool, like she's fine. Like I got no problem with her. She's doing her thug thizzle. She really is kind of the Winston of the group, because it's not really significantly about her. Like, we get Podcast, who's Phoebe's friend that she meets in class, because I guess she's in summer school, that she meets in class. He gets more screen time and Ghostbuster time than, what is this with putting the black Ghostbuster out to pasture for the majority of the movie, especially for this Podcast kid. So I mentioned this Podcast kid in the non-spoiler section. His character sucks. His character just sucks. Oh my god, he's so fucking annoying. Like, and like he's very try hard, and a lot of kids go through that phase. I know I've gone through that phase where, you know, he's trying some stuff, he's very enthusiastic, he's not as funny as he thinks he is, and this kid is just that all over, and it's cringy to watch. He is the least likable of any of these four quote-unquote new Ghostbusters. Now, here's the thing that I struggled with, because I was thinking about this on the way there. It's like, oh, didn't you want to be a Ghostbuster as a kid? Yeah, we all played Ghostbusters, but I didn't necessarily want to be a kid Ghostbuster. I was pretending to be an adult Ghostbusting. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was pretending to be an adult wrestling. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what kids do. I didn't necessarily need to be a kid Ghostbuster. And I was thinking about this, like, in the long term, because they do sequel bait at the end. In the long term, like, part of the reason why Ghostbusters, the originals, worked was because three of them at least, really 2.5, were scientists, right? Ray and Egon were scientists. You saw them working together building and fixing the equipment. You saw them like getting together. Like you saw how they could do this. At least the two of them. Even if Peter was more of a faux scientist than anything else, was more of a charlatan, you could see how Ray and Egon could work together. Here, it's all Phoebe. It's all the little girl because she's the genius. That's it. So anyway, the family's getting evicted from their shitty apartment, and Egon's dead. We start with Egon. We see Egon dying, trying to catch a ghost. He gets a heart attack, trying to be the one to catch this ghost. He gets a heart attack, and he ends up haunting this house. This is really kind of where it seems to get into fanfic territory. Like off the start, it gets some fanfic territory. So they get evicted. They go to the farm where Egon was, I guess, in Oklahoma. The mom is just pissed off at Egon because he ditched her all those years ago. And that's immediately, I'm like, Egon wouldn't do that. I'm like, that's where the story falls. Some details of the story make it fall apart. Like it gets spit together because this is the fanfic part. It gets spit together, but Egon would not fucking ditch his family. Like, are you shitting me? Egon would not ditch his fucking family. And immediately I'm like, there's no way that Janine would let Egon ditch his family. Ever. So then, especially because it would be with her. Well, fast forward to they get to the house and Janine's there. We saw that in the trailer. Janine's there to let her in. Her last name still Melnitz. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. And she doesn't know them. They don't know her. Get the fuck out of here. She doesn't marry Egon. Egon's got some family somewhere, not with Janine. Come on. Two, she doesn't marry Louis. Oh, come on. Come on. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. If Janine's last name was not Spangler or Melnitz Spangler, then damn it should have been Tully or Melnitz Tully. You're gonna do your fanfic, goddamn, do it right. She comes in and they don't know who she is, I audibly was like, get the fuck out of here. Now, mind you, I wasn't the only one in the theater making noise. I think there was somebody who was of limited mental capacity behind me because he just kept repeating lines over and over again, kind of like Rain Man. He wasn't loud about it, but he was definitely repeating lines over and over again. We're gonna stay right here. We don't need to go inside for this. Fucking. So that pissed me off. And then the daughter is mad at Egon because Egon ditched the family, so we don't even know who the mom is. Egon ditches the family, so all she does is talk shit about Egon. That pissed me off, because I'm like, I know damn well they are not talking this shit about Egon like this. Oh my gosh. So the little girl, she's finding stuff out about the house. They're all finding stuff out about the house. There's a stack of books stacked high. It's like, oh yeah, okay, fine. There's numbers on the ceiling or whatever. It's like, okay. They're trying to get their lives together. Paul Rudd is the teacher of the little girl. She finds out about ghost busting after, so she's in the house. The chessboard that she has gets knocked over. It's Egon. So Egon's haunting the house, and Egon's the guiding hand through this thing. He starts by like moving some chess pieces as she sleeps, and then she wakes up and she moves a chess piece, and then he moves a chess piece while she sees it, and she's like, whoa. And then she leads her down to his basement with all the Ghostbusters fixes that he has. This is where the nostalgia overload really hits. He leads her down there with all the Ghostbuster stuff, and the Stranger Things kid finds the ecto unit he's trying to put it together, as he got the job at the sock hop with the little girl that he likes. Anyway, yada yada yada. Fast forward, she ends up fixing the proton pack with the help of Ghost Egon, and he ends up fixing the the Ecto 1 with the help of Ghost Egon that he doesn't know exists at this point. And then they go busting ghosts. She finds the first little ghost, Muncher, I guess, is this generation's Slimer. All he does is munch on metal, which comes back to help them a little bit later on. So she and Podcast and Stranger Things go zooming through the town. You see that in the trailer where they're shooting stuff all over the place. That gets them locked up by Sheriff Bokeem Woodbine. Sheriff Bokeem Woodbine, who always plays the asshole in movies, has a long history of playing the absolute asshole in movies. Not an asshole. He's the dad of the little girl that Stranger Things likes, and he's the sheriff of the town. So he collects them, locks them up, locks up their stuff, and they eventually get it out with the help of the ghost that they trapped, which was the one that munches the metal. So they trap him. He chews all the metal that's surrounding their gear. They get the gear and they go to where they need to go. So we see the Shandor mine shaft. Apparently, Ivor Shandor, who was mentioned in the first movie, he built so all the selenium, which made Spook Central West in the first place, the metal that made Spook Central West where Dana lived, was all mined from this shaft in Oklahoma. And in the shaft, he also built this other temple to Gozer, the Gozerian, who is the main ghost here. Built the temple to her in hopes that they would rule the world together. He's even buried there. He's got a crypt. He's buried up in there. And every once in a while, the ghosts try to free themselves. But Egon has built all these different proton packs together to keep them contained in this pit of hell, I guess, where all the miners went to die themselves. Because apparently, at some point, part of the story is the miners that built the mine down there and mined all the metal eventually sacrificed themselves into this hole one by one. But they're all trying to bust loose, and the proton packs keep them contained. And every time they try to bust loose, Ivor, who's in this glass crypt, he tries to wake up, but since they die him back down again. And little Podcast sees this for himself. Again, good special effects. So they're building this whole story, and there's this temple to Gozer the Gozerian. And when we finally see Gozer the Gozerian for the first time in this movie, once again, like I said, the editing is super choppy and terrible. Like it's super rushed at that point, and really only at that point. And I don't know why it's only at that point, but it is only at that point. So the Keymaster is Paul Rudd. The Gatekeeper is the mom. They get together. They were dating. They were starting to date anyway, but eventually they get together. And Phoebe frees her mom by placing a trap underneath her and freeing her, I guess, from the confines of the terror dog. And then they chase them back to the farm, which was apparently a giant trap that Egon had set up. He set the whole thing up as a giant trap for Gozer the Gozerian all by himself. Now here's part of the problem with this whole thing. He set it up all by himself. He went out and he set it up all by himself. So when they're in jail, the little girl calls Ray. And again, terrible thing that they do here. Just really bad writing at this particular point. She starts questioning Ray about what happened, and Ray starts spilling his guts about what happened between Egon and the rest of the Ghostbusters, without mentioning who the fuck she is. Like, without mentioning who the fuck she is. At the very end, she says, "I'm Egon's granddaughter." Click. And the sheriff hangs up the phone. Start with that. Because he was ready to hang up at the very beginning. Fucking start with that. Fucking answer the phone. Raise a call. "Hey, this is Egon's granddaughter. What can you tell me about Egon?" Then we can get into the whole spiel about, well, Egon went off the rails, etc., etc. Like, get the fuck out of here. That's basic writing. It's very basic writing. They should have put the end part at the beginning. "I'm Egon's daughter. I'm here in Oklahoma. What can you tell me about Grandpappy?" That's very simple. And then that way, when the Ghostbusters do show up at the end, it makes more sense, because then he gets the gang. You can think that he gets the gang together. They show up at the end seemingly for no reason, because there's nothing connecting it. There's nothing connecting it. So that's a loose end. But anyway, apparently the story goes, Egon started going off his rocker once the ghost rate started going down. They had like 10 a day. Then they got lucky if they got 1 a week. And The busting race started going down. Ray went into finance. Egon is teaching, Peter is teaching advertising somewhere, and Ray's got his occult bookstore. And Egon went off the rails and started trying to convince everybody about something else is coming. And one day, Ray shows up to the firehouse and everything's gone. Egon apparently just took everything to Oklahoma all by himself to go work on this thing all by himself. Yo, there's no way. First off, Egon, let's start with this. Ray would have believed him. Ray would have been the first one to go. Ray and Egon would have done this together. What are you talking? Yo, do you know the material? Do you know the material? Do you know who you're talking about? This is Egon Spengler. Ray would have went with him. Ray would have went with him. Maybe Peter wouldn't have gone. Peter, you'd had to convince Peter that there was some money in it. Fine. I get that. And maybe Winston, if he can't get the steady paycheck in it, you're not gonna do anything you say. But maybe Ray would have gone with him, and he wouldn't have, because at a certain point during this phone call, fucking Ray says Egon Spengler can rot in hell. I wanted to set fire to every print of this movie at that point. What the fuck are you talking about? Oh my God. The way Egon would not have done that. That's not what would have happened. That's not what would have happened. First off, he's a fucking scientist, for fuck's sake. He'd have shown proof. He'd have shown something. Ray would have gone with him. There's no way. Yeah, okay. Oh, Egon wanted to drill a hole in his head. Yeah, he got stopped, though. By his friends. He wouldn't have dished his whole he would have sent a phone call. And Winston says this near the end. He's like, should have got a phone call. Yeah, there would have been phone calls or something. Because also, Egon would have known or thought that he would have needed the help of you guys, of the rest of the crew. Come on. Get out of here. Oh, but he got Janine to help manage his money, no money that was there to barely keep the electricity going. I guess the electricity was to fuel all the traps underneath the farm there, but that's not Egon. No, that's not Egon. Egon would have gone into teaching. You know what else he possibly would have? Let's just hypothetically say that Egon is a complete prick. Somehow. Okay, fine. He'd have taken his family. He'd have taught at whatever nearest Oklahoma University there would be, and he'd get together another crew of Ghostbusters, like he did in the sequel cartoon, Extreme Ghostbusters. It wouldn't have happened like this, is what I'm saying. It wouldn't, some of the pieces that set this whole thing up wouldn't have happened like this. You understand what I'm saying? They wouldn't have not known that their grandfather was Egon fucking Spengler. No. Once you get past that glaring fucking plot hole, that immense plot, like that's the whole. If I've seen this script, let's just say hypothetically, Jason Reitman, who co-wrote this and directed it, came to me, dropped the script, was like, "Hey, we got the sequel. Here's what it is." Would have sent it to me. I'd have read it. I'd have said to him, Egon's not. This isn't Egon. I don't know what to tell you, but this ain't Egon. All this beforehand ain't. All this beforehand shit ain't. Even if you wanted to do again the fucking fanfic thing of Egon as the guiding ghost force, which we fine. Let's just say that there is a guiding ghost force or something like that. Fine. Even if Egon was it, even if that's what Egon does, what he did beforehand would not have been what Egon did. Ever. I have a very hard time getting past that plot point. I have an extraordinarily hard time getting past that plot point, but let's say we do. So the crew gets together. They end up, after they freed Mom, Gozer then comes to the farm like he did at the beginning. So when Gozer rises, Ivor Shandor rises too and says, "Hey, let's rule together." And Gozer splits him apart again very fast and keeps going. This is another thing about the editing. Especially comparing it to the original Ghostbusters, the creepier elements of Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2 even. Ghostbusters 2 was the very first movie I saw in movie theaters. Ghostbusters 2, 1989. Yes, I do. I remember that. And I remember being scared. And I remember which part I was scared at, too. It was at the end when the ghost got reemerged and the woman is walking out of the theater with the fur coat, and then all the furs come to life and then start galloping down the street. Scared the fuck out of 4-year-old me. Scared. I remember diving in my mother's lap at that point. Very scary part. There are elements of the original Ghostbusters. Very creepy. Very scary elements. The scary elements of Ghostbusters Afterlife, they click on very fast. They click off very fast, so as not to actually scare you. God damn it, you powder puff fucking generation of fucking cream puff fucking fucks. You fucking feelings and safe spaces and all this other shit. Can we get creeped out by something, please? Can we get creeped out by a ghostly thing in a fucking ghostly movie? Please and thank you. For Christ's sake, can we do that? I don't think they did that for China. They ain't getting China anyway. They got ghosts in this movie. They ain't getting China anyway. Who's this for? Is this for some powder puff kids that can't handle a ghost and a goddamn ghost? I remember the 80s and 90s, particularly the 80s movies, allowed you as a child to be scared. It raised the stakes of some shit. You were supposed to be scared. You were supposed to be creeped out. You were supposed to see the most disgusting thing you'd ever seen in your life. So that stuck with you. And those movies that scared the shit out of you became an indelible part of your life for the rest of your life. I remember watching Nightmare on Elm Street as a kid, one of the Nightmare on Elm Streets. And it was the one blonde chick from Just the 10 of Us was in it. Because I remember she her death was weird. She was working out. And she was working out, and I forget what else happened. I think she was like in a matchbox or something like that. I forget what happened. Anyway, but I do remember Freddy was in a diner, and these kids were in a diner somewhere, and I'll never forget this. This shit, it was super fucking creepy. And it's still, I've seen it recently, you know, it hasn't aged completely well, but it still hits me in the little creepy area. He's in a diner, and he's got a pizza with sausages on it, and he takes one of his nails, and and the sausages are all human heads screaming to get off this pizza. And he picks up one of the sausages and the sausage heads and eats it. I'll never forget that. I was allowed to be afraid as a child. I was allowed to be scared of this shit. Ghostbusters, you were allowed to be afraid of the zombie taxi driver. And some people in the trailer thought it was a zombie taxi driver. It was a zombie miner. Not miner as in small person. Miner is as in one of the people that dug the mine for Ivor Shandor. But they clip away. There's one when the mom is about to get got by the terror dog. The terror, all we see is darkness. Mom turns around, and out of the darkness, terror dog. And it wasn't even that long that I just did that. That my hand, it was terror dog. It was terror dog on off. On, like, can we be afraid of this goddamn thing? Please? Would you allow me to be afraid of this stupid thing? Now, maybe back in the 80s, they allowed you to be afraid of it because these were live action puppets that they were dealing with. You understand what I'm saying? They wanted to get the most out of the money that they put into these live action. And that's another reason why the effects, by and large, for most movies back then, look way better than they do now. But Afterlife does not do a bad job with the special effects. They're actually pretty good. They're actually pretty good special effects. But that's one thing that irked me, is that they didn't let you be terrified of the shit for too long. They just didn't. And it's like, fuck these kids, man. Scare the shit out of them. Fuck are you talking about? Fuck these little... I'm Michael Jordan all over that. Fuck them kids. If y'all ain't scared about some shit, then y'all ain't living life. Fuck them kids. Let them motherfuckers be scared. God, anyway. So they all end up back at the farm. The terror dog then hops onto the black chick, the new black Ghostbuster, ain't even involved in the end game. She gets terror dogged super quick. She gets terror dogged real quick so that Gozer can get her power back up. Then come the older crew, the older Ghostbusters crew, and they come together and they cross the streams, which you're not supposed to do, but they cross the streams, and all of a sudden this Gozer is the most super powerful Gozer of all time. Because last time, a couple of beams and Gozer, was out of there. But also, Gozer wasn't the big bad last time. Gozer, was more of like a vessel, I think. It was a whole thing. Like, Gozer wasn't the big bad, but here Gozer is the big bad and super powerful, like tossing streams left and right like they're nothing. Like, all right, they don't really explain how Gozer's that powerful this time around, but okay, sure. Home field advantage, I suppose. I don't know. They also don't explain why. I mean, I'm sure there may be something, parallel universe. There's probably something in the original one. Why? But they don't, why is it Oklahoma and not New York? This is another thing. In the originals, New York was a character. New York's not a character in this. The city that they're in, Oklahoma, is not a character in this. It's just a place. It's just the setting. Like, the city should be a character. Like, that's part of the irreverence of the original Ghostbusters. That's part of the kind of flippant attitude people have about this whole thing. The New York attitude where Louis Tully's getting mauled by a terror dog at Tavern on the Green, and they all just look and they go back to what they're doing because it's all New York. You know what I mean? Like that. That's an element that's missing, is the everydayness of it. And that's another thing. They build this world that's super. Again, this is why it's a fanfic, because with the original, it was the everydayness. They weren't superheroes. They were exterminators. They were exterminators. There were guys that came in and took care of your roaches. New York just happened to have a really bad problem with really big roaches. Or rats. That's it. They were exterminators. They weren't superheroes. That's the juxtaposition. When you get to the end of the original Ghostbusters, near the end of the original Ghostbusters, and they show up to Spook Central West, right? And they got the crowd there, right? And the ground shakes underneath them, and they all get sunk into the pit. And then they come back out. And there they are, and they're heroes. They're heroes of this crowd. They show up, they're heroes of this crowd, and the big earthquake, and they come back up, and they're heroes again, and they're heroes. But then when it comes to actually doing the shit, the hero shit, they got to do regular shit. They got to walk up 87 flights of stairs to get there. That's the juxtaposition. Ghostbusters, 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 and then they get and they're dragging because it's just mundane, monotonous shit. They're just exterminators. They're just taking care of a really big cockroach. Bite your head off, pal. They're everyday guys, and they end up building this reverence for the originals. Like I said, a little bit too much. The idea of the kids being able to do it themselves, like I said, they address it, I guess, well enough. Like the car with the gunner seat. Also, I guess Egon would have been working on this stuff by himself in Oklahoma, but wouldn't the car with the gunner seat, what good would a gunner seat do Egon in Ecto if he's all by himself? Like, he doesn't even have a team, and he apparently pissed off the rest of the team. He would be driving by himself. Like, to have an automatic trap, okay, I guess that makes sense. But if he's driving, is he also controlling the automatic trap? But that seemed to require two hands. So how's he driving with it? So some of the new tech didn't necessarily make sense, but fine, I suppose. So she's like while they're trapping the ghost, she's in the gunner seat doing it, so she doesn't have to necessarily be kicked back. Although you see her get kicked back a little bit later on. The gunner seat helps, I suppose, with the balance, but you gotta remember, these are unlicensed nuclear accelerants on their backs. And it made more sense for adults to be handling this because of how big and bulky it was, and you could see the kickback on it a little bit better. Like, to see kids with the kickback and all that other stuff with these giant fucking proton packs on their back, it's like, it's a nitpick, but it's a pick nonetheless. So they go back to the farm. The black girl, again, out of the picture for the final fight. I don't know what this is. I don't know what this quiet racism is in Ghostbusters. But she's a terror dog now. And everybody else is doing it. So they cross the streams. Gozer uncrosses the streams, is firing everybody all over the place. Here comes the Phoebe. She's got her neutrino wand, and she's blasting at Gozer. And Gozer then blasts at her, and the neutrino wand and Gozer's blast come together like in Dragon Ball Z and are like battling. Like, hold on, she just threw away 3 of the original neutrino wands. I audibly said, toss her ass. I audibly was like, toss her ass to the fucking ground, because you just tossed the 3 original Ghostbusters with the goddamn neutrino wands together, crossed away like they were fucking gnats, like they were the buzzing of flies to her. Also, speaking of Ghostbusters 2, so they're in the little tomb thing, and on the wall is inscribed these numbers, just like in Egon's house, but apparently they're dates, and they get to 1984, the original Ghostbusting thing, and then they move to 2021, and I'm like, we're forgetting 1989, aren't we? 1989 was a fairly big paranormal thing too. Now, mind you, that had nothing to do with Gozer, but 1989 was fairly big too. That was Vigo the Carpathian. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't know that they had. Anyway, again, another little nitpick, but it's like, can we mention 89? Because 89 was fairly big. 89, something happened in 89. Anyway, so I'm like, fucking blast her, fucking Gozer. You just dispensed with the original Ghostbusters. Dispense with this little girl too, please. Seeing as how she's a little fucking girl, and she's digging her feet in, and she's going back like this, and she's digging her feet in the dirt, and Gozer's blasting back. I'm like, toss her ass. Here comes Egon's hand on her hand, and I'm like, oh, that's how I'm like, how the fuck is she standing for this? It's Egon's hand guiding her hand and helping her with the proton. And again, this is where the special effects were really goddamn good, because it really does look like a ghost fucking Harold Ramis. Like, they got his face, they digitally put his face in perfectly. He didn't speak, because I'm sure the audio, they can't do the audio right. He didn't speak, he just motioned, he just smiled, he just nodded, but God, it was that, fuck, jeez. That was amazing. That was the best special effect shit. That was stunning how they did that. It looked like he was on screen doing the shit, and I know he wasn't. I know they filmed this year. They didn't even conceive of this fucking movie before before Harold Ramis really died. But Jesus, stunning, and I imagine if I'm a Ramis and I saw this, I would have been a blubbering goddamn mess, because it was him. It was him. Like, it was him. He was there. That, Oh my gosh, that was ridiculous. So he's guiding hers, and then the originals come, and then the Stranger Things kid, he's trying to get his to work, but the little marshmallow men are screwing with his. I guess the little marshmallow men are like little minions for Gozer now somehow, and that's how they trap Paul Rudd. You saw that in the trailer. But Podcast is picking them off and ends up fixing his proton pack, and then he's able to go through. So now it's all 5 proton packs, and then the mom hits the plunger on the giant trap that is the farm there. He hits the accelerator things that are around the thing and opens up, and Gozer's gone. And then we all say goodbye to Harold Ramis. Everybody's looking, and Harold Ramis is standing next to Egon, standing next to the 3 of them, and they're all looking like what the oh my, what's going on, it's pretty good. Peter in this, Bill Murray in this is pretty good. Did you miss this? Yeah, I got that. He didn't get as many lines here as you would think, or maybe even want. He looked like he significant difference from him here versus in Feedbusters. He looked like he didn't look like he wanted to jump off a building here. It's the difference. He didn't look like he was contractually obligated to be there. He didn't look like he was like threatened with lawsuits like he was with the last one. He looked like he kind of wanted to participate. Again, that whole thing about Egon just ditching everybody, that rubbed me the wrong way. Anyway, they do that. Egon says his goodbyes to everybody, and he ends up hugging his daughter. He's like I guess he can actually have physical presence. He ends up hugging his daughter. I guess that's the end of the piece that he needs to make here on Earth, and then but it was less Egon and more Harold Ramis. You know what I mean? There's a difference. Egon was a little bit more stoic. He had a couple moments of humanity, particularly in Ghostbusters 2, but it was more Harold Ramis. Harold Ramis' smile is what we really saw. And then he ditches off into the astronomical plane and says for Harold, and then we zoom back down to Brooklyn Bridge, and Ecto-1 is zooming past, and we get the Ghostbusters theme song, which is always great to hear on a big screen. We get a couple cutscenes where Dana is shocking Egon, or shocking Peter with his card things. Okay, I guess Sigourney Weaver's there at the end credit. Like, she's not really doing anything in the movie, unfortunately. Like, I kind of wanted to see her. And so the ticket guy tells me that there's 2 end credit scenes, and I'm like, all right, so here's the last end credit scene. I need to see a Janosch and or Louis Tully. Like, come on, that's all I want, and I don't see either. What we see is Janine. We see a cut scene. We see I think it was a cut scene, like a scene that was on the editing room floor of the original, where she gives Egon a coin for luck. It may have been in the original, but I'm pretty sure it was a cut scene. And then she goes to Ray's financial office, or Winston's financial office, and I guess Winston's been keeping Ray's bookstore afloat. And he, I guess, paid for the firehouse. And he was like, at the end, he was like, he's looking at Ecto-1. He was like, we're going to take care of you. And I guess they're driving Ecto-1 into the firehouse again, the old shutdown firehouse. And there's a containment unit. And the containment unit is blinking red. And I'm like, oh, God, they're sequel baiting this. It was not a complete disaster. How they handled Egon for the majority of the movie was irritating. Quite so. And I'm sure if I watched it again, if I watched it again, I would get more and more irritated with it, and I would see more problems with that plot hole. The kids ghostbusting, fine. It was alright. You know, it wasn't anything I hated necessarily. It was alright. I could live with it. It's fine. It did feel, especially at the end, I was right in that it didn't feel like a Ghostbusters movie necessarily. It felt like it was a Ghostbusters fanfic. It was a good Ghostbusters fanfic, but it was a Ghostbusters fanfic. We still, as far as I'm concerned, do not have the third Ghostbusters movie we all wanted. As far as I'm concerned, you're going to see a lot of praise for this because, listen, the bar is underneath hell at this point because of Feegbusters. For a third Ghostbusters movie, the bar is, there is no bar as far as Ghostbusters for a third movie is concerned. As long as they didn't have anything to do with fucking Feegbusters. And I thought the waitress that served the mom, or was in the window of the mom, she looked like Kate McKinnon for half a second. I thought that was her, but I guess it was I guess that was Dan Aykroyd's daughter, I think. Anyway, but yeah, or White. No, it wasn't. It certainly was his wife. I remember his wife was hot. I remember his wife, Yvonne Dixon from Booze and Buddies, which starred the late great Peter Scolari, by the way, who had fucking Harold Ramis's role from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids in the TV show. It's all connected, kids. Anyway, out of $15, Ghostbusters Afterlife. It does not get $0 out of 15. Does it get $15 out of 15? No. You know what is $15 out of 15? Ghostbusters. That's 15 out of 15. Ghostbusters Afterlife, with the plot holes, but with the great special effects, with the good acting, but with that terrible character of podcast, with the overall decent storytelling, but not entirely the story that I necessarily would have wanted for a movie, I would say Ghostbusters Afterlife out of $15 is worth I'd say it's better than half. I say it's better than half. I wouldn't give it 12. I would say my mind is sitting on 10. I think if I were less generous at this moment, I'd give it like a 9 out of 15. I don't know that I want to be that generous because it did piss me off. There are definitely portions of it that pissed me off. And again, I feel like if I go back and watch it again, I will be thoroughly pissed off at significant sections of the movie. I don't see now. The more I talk about it, the less I'm feeling. The closer I'm feeling towards 9 out of $15. And I feel like if I kept talking, I would drive myself down to about $7.50. So I think in this moment, because realistically, I could probably see myself settling on $8.50 out of $15, which is fairly disappointing. Like, there are three movies that three movies that should have really drove me outside to go to the theaters: James Bond, this, and what's the other? I don't even remember what the other movie is. James Bond, this. And there's another movie that's out right now that should have driven me to the fucking theaters, but felt underwhelmed by. Out of $15, Ghostbusters Afterlife is worth, I'll be generous and say $8.50. Because again, the more I talk about, I'll settle on $8.50. I think I'll settle on $8.50 out of $15. There's because it does things right, but overall it still doesn't quite fit. You understand what I'm saying? It's like a round peg going in a square hole. Like, sure, that's not what I'm looking for, but sure, you can do that because the circle fits in the square, but it's not, it's steak flavored ice cream. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's steak flavored ice cream. I like steak, I like ice cream. I don't need them together. That fucking Egon plot just irks the shit out of me. The more I think about that Egon plot, the worse it gets. And that's why I think I'm settling on $8.50. Because that Egon plot, fuck me. God, he would never do that. He would just, that just doesn't fit. It's just, yeah, I think $8.50. Honestly, if I were being generous, I'd give it 9. But the more I think about that Egon plot, that Egon subplot, it's $8.50. It's got to be $8.50. So, would I suggest rushing out to see it? Nah. You can you can stream it. It's fine if you want to stream it when it comes out. I don't suggest rushing out to see it. I mean, I felt like I had to give an honest opinion about it. I think I saw some people giving it like a B. Like, a lot of people gave it a lot of big praise. It doesn't deserve big praise. It doesn't deserve scorn. It doesn't necessarily deserve total scorn, but it doesn't deserve giant praise either. It doesn't deserve giant praise. I don't know if I'm gonna buy the other figure. I'm certainly not gonna buy the kid figures. I didn't connect with them. I may or may not buy the older Ghostbuster figures. I'm not in a big rush to do that. I got the originals. Yeah, that's Ghostbusters Afterlife, kids. That's it. Let me know what you think down there in the comments section. I mean, it brought me back to do this. At least this one time, it brought me back to do this. There's something else I have in mind in terms of content that's gonna take a little bit of time to get together. But I think it's a really good thing to do. I think it will drive a lot of discussion, and I may even create a new channel for it. But I had to get this out because this, it at least didn't disrespect the original. It may have respected it too much, and at the same time, it still disrespected some aspect of it. But that's just me. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. Stay posted on all my shit. Surreal469 on everything. Surreal200 on Instagram as well, as you can follow my weight loss transformation. I am down to 250. I got 50 pounds to go. To my goal. I'm not going to get there by my birthday, but I'm damn sure going to get there by next year, or probably going to get there by next year. The goal is 200 pounds. People saw me in regular clothes. They're like, oh, you look real. Thanks. I appreciate all those compliments. But if I get to 220 with muscles, I'll be all right. I've said that before. I'll get to 220 with muscles. I'll be actually on my birthday. I may or may not get to. I should be close to that. I should be like 235, 240, 235 ish. Maybe if I get 100% back, go super hard in the paint. I give it about 240 ish, 235 ish, give or take. Now, mind you, we got holidays coming up, but I'll be all right. I ain't gonna overdo it on the holiday shit. I'm still gonna go hard at the gym. I'm not gonna overdo it on the food holiday time. I will have at least 2 nice meals, Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Day, but I ain't gonna go too hard in the paint. Anyway, party people, that's it for me. Let me know all your shit down there in the thing, and as always, cheers.
I'm a nice guy from a nice place with a nice smile on my nice face. Turn your back and I'm making sure my night's straight. And when you're out of town, I'll be making sure your wife's straight.